we're going to talk about Chardonnay. Chardonnay is one of the world's most popular white grapes for good reason. Its traditional home is in the Burgundy region of France, where it is also traditionally barrel-aged. So we have a range of Chardonnays at Cooper's Hawk that really reflect all of these different styles of Chardonnay that you'll find in Burgundy, but also in other parts of the world. Chardonnay itself is a fairly neutral grape. It's not as aromatic as, say, Sauvignon Blanc or Gewürztraminer, and those are the kinds of grapes that you don't typically barrel age because you really want to capture those fresh aromatics and all of those wonderful flowery, fruity flavors. But in Chardonnay, you get a little bit more of this really soft apple flavor and a richness that really lends itself well to oak aging. That being said, we do have an unoaked Chardonnay, and that's where we're going to start today. So our unoaked Chardonnay has been raised entirely in stainless steel, and what this does, like I said before, is it allows more of those fresh fruit flavors to show through. And in this wine in particular, it's gorgeous. It's really pretty. It's very fresh. There's lots of really crisp apple, like honey crisp apple. You also get that kind of lemony flavor as well. Really, again, about really bright, fresh fruit. This is something that you could have with sashimi or salads, much more delicate dishes. As we go into oak, the wines become a lot richer, and we'll go with heavier, heartier fare. So the next wine we're going to taste is just our straight Cooper's Hawk Chardonnay. This has a little bit of oak influence, so you'll notice when you taste it that it's a little bit creamier, a little bit toastier. Really delicious. To me, it has a little bit more of a custard flavor to it as well. You still get that yellow apple, but it's starting to lead more towards baked apple as opposed to the real fresh apple that we get from the unoaked Chardonnay. You'll also notice when you look at these side by side that they have a different color. Unoaked Chardonnay is a lot lighter in color. There's a lot less exposure to air, whereas the oaked Chardonnay, you start to see a little bit more of a golden tone. And in part, it's drawing color from the oak, but also what's happened is it's gone through just a little bit of oxidation. So imagine if you cut into an apple and you let it sit out in the air and it starts to turn a little bit brown. It's the same thing that's happening with the wine. White wines, as they get exposed to air, start to get much more golden in color. The next wine we're going to taste is our Luxe Chardonnay. This is a gorgeous wine, really classic California style Chardonnay. And you really get that wonderful spice tone coming through. It's much nuttier. And this becomes less and less about the fruit and a little bit more about this complexity of fruit as it starts to mix with barrels and barrel aging. Now the thing with barrels, there's a couple of ways that we use barrels in winemaking. One of them is for barrel aging, where the wines literally sit in a barrel and they soften over time with exposure to the oak, and they reduce. They actually evaporate a little bit and get a bit more concentrated in their flavors. The other ways that we can use oak is in barrel fermenting. And we're using this in the case of our wine of the month, the Twice Oaked Chardonnay. So first we ferment the wine in a barrel as opposed to stainless steel, where it really starts to take on the flavors of that oak. And then from there we turn around and age it in oak as well. So with this wine you get really a very strong expression of that oak. That is delicious. Super nutty, spicy, toasty. It's a little bit like peanut butter toast. So this is the wine to pull out when you're grilling. There's a real smokiness that comes from oak fermentation as well as oak aging. And this is the wine that really lends itself to dishes like grilled shrimp, grilled chicken, grilled fish. When you're barbecuing, pull out that wine. The last wine that we're going to taste is our Blanc de Blanc. Blanc de Blanc means white from white. This is a term that you see in the Champagne region of France very commonly whenever they're making champagnes from Chardonnay only, so white from white grapes. In our Blanc de Blanc, it is also 100% Chardonnay. You'll notice I'm actually tasting this in a wine glass as opposed to a champagne flute. There's a reason for this. Champagne flutes are really wonderful for seeing that beautiful little line of bubbles that comes up from the bottom of the glass. But the opening is so small, it's actually really difficult to smell the wine. You're really getting the temperature and the refreshing acidity and the bubbles, but not a lot of the aromatics. And today, because I'm tasting, I really want that bigger glass so I can smell the wine as I taste it. Now this wine, it does go back to our unoaked Chardonnay because there's no barrels involved. What I'm getting instead is this really bright, fresh, exuberant fruit. It's a little bit more green apple as opposed to the yellow apple flavors that I get from the unoaked Chardonnay, but it's very aromatic, very pretty. There's just the faintest hint of sweetness as well, which really adds to that, the lusciousness of this wine. So that concludes our Chardonnay adventure today, and I would recommend next time you go to a Cooper's Hawk, create your own flight, do a little Chardonnay exploration of your own, and better yet, bring over some friends and do it at your own house. Cheers. Delicious.